I'm Sue Rubin. I first met Pious, I want to say it was about 2010. Pious was working as a facilitator at Seeds of Peace. My daughter Sarah, at that point, was either working the waterfront head counselor, the assistant director, or some permutation of those jobs. I used to go to the Seeds of Peace camp about once a week to see her, have lunch, bring her a goodie from Mom, and got to know the amazing people that were involved in running Seeds. Tim and Will and Leslie and Pious, and amazing group of people. In 2013, I started seeing signs all over Portland. Pious Ali for school committee. Every place I went in Portland was a sign for Pious running for school committee. I said, Sarah, what's going on? She said, yeah, Pious is going to become involved in city government. That's fantastic. Then, no matter where I was, Shaw's, CVS, every store in Portland, Pious Ali was standing outside of it, introducing himself to the people going into the stores as a person running for a school committee. He then went house to house, street to street. The man must have worn out, I don't know how many pairs of shoes in his first election in Portland, which he was elected to the school committee. Today he's on city council, yes, Pius? Yes. The thing that impressed me the most is how he embraced his new community. And how much he has become a part of that community. And I also want to commend Portland for electing a West African Muslim to the school committee in 2013. And now there are so many members of our refugee community in Portland who are in city government. I think it's fantastic. But Pious was the beginning. And he remains a good friend of Sarah's. And I would like you to give him a welcome for his speech today for our synagogue. Pious, please. He also has gorgeous pants.
Thank you, Sue. Is that okay? Okay. Thank you all for having me. It's a privilege for me to be here to share my journey and what shaped my life and what brought me to be everything that Sue shared with you. My name is Pious Ali. I was born in Ghana, and I was raised by my grandmother, who passed about a year ago at the age of 115. I don't know if I'm going to be to live that long because she outlived both her kids and all her siblings. So, yeah. I have been a proud resident of Portland since 2002, and prior to that, I came to New York in 2000. So people ask me, why did you decide to move to New York? When I was in Ghana, I was a photojournalist, and I photographed everyone from the everyday person on the street to the president. And my claim to fame when I was back home was that I'm Ghana's #1 paparazzi. It doesn't matter what you do. When I go to events, they take away my camera bag so that I cannot take pictures. and I still managed to get photographs. There was a theory that I have a belt that have cameras on it. What I do is I break my cameras down and give it to my friends. And I had the privilege of photographing Queen Elizabeth when she came to Ghana. And then I wanted something bigger. I wanted something that we didn't have in Ghana. I wanted to do something different. So I migrated to New York in 2000. I came to cover an event, and after the event, I decided to stay. I live in New York for 2 years. As you said earlier, I am a Muslim, and I grew up in a household that was very religious. After September 11, living in New York became a little bit difficult for me because of everything that was going on. My friend Ebenezer Akakpo, who owns a small business in Portland, and he works for Maine Turnpike Authority, came to visit New York. And when we were growing up, his father sent him to school in Italy. And when I saw him in New York, I had a mutual friend who was hosting him. How come nobody told me that he was visiting? And Ebenezer said, oh, I do visit New York every weekend. And I said, are they paying you to fly from Italy to come here? He said, no, I live in Maine. And I asked Ebenezer, where is Maine? Prior to that, you know, when you are an immigrant and you migrate to the US, your first few months, sometimes half a year, you don't have anything doing, depending on who is hosting you. I was staying with my cousins and friends, and so in the morning they will go to work. And I will sit down and watch TV all day, taking breaks to have lunch or go out for walks, and then I will come back and watch TV because there was nothing for me to do. I just arrived. And in one of those days, I was watching Good Morning America. And there were young people from the Middle East, all of them wearing green shirts on TV. And the name of Maine was mentioned. And the name of the organization was Seeds of Peace. At that point, I didn't know that these two names, which is Maine and Seeds of Peace, will at a point in my life become part of who I am, probably for the rest of my life. I moved to Maine in 2002 because I came to visit my friend Ebenezer. And when I came here, I fell in love with Portland, and I stayed. After working in restaurants and doing all sorts of jobs that immigrants do when they move to new places, I had a chance of having a job that worked with young people in Portland who are immigrants or young people who are coming from economically disadvantaged background through Portland Housing Authority. There was an organization called Opportunity, then it was called People Regional Opportunity Program. Now it is called Opportunity Alliance. And through that organization, I get to learn a lot of things about this country. I love to read, and I love to watch documentaries. When I came to this country, when I knew that I was coming to do this talk, I went back to the library, and I made them look through some of the things that I have borrowed in the past. It went as far back as 2004 or something. So I read everything that I could lay my hands on in the US. But I also watched a documentary about Jews in America. I think it is done by a gentleman whose last, I don't remember his first name. His first name might be David, but his last name might be Rubin. I watched all the series, and I learned so much. And that was before I went to Seeds of Peace. Through my work in Portland Housing Authorities, the kids that I work with have been to the camp. And they would not stop talking about the camp. I still don't know what this camp is about until I became part of a group in Portland called Maine, Interfaith Maine. And I went to their first meeting. I was invited by someone. I used to have dreadlocks that was long. And then there is a good friend of mine who eventually became like a mentor and a friend. His name is Abraham Peck. Abraham came to the local mosque where I worship, and he said to me, I don't know that Muslims have dreadlocks. And I said, yeah, some of us do. And then we had a conversation, and he said, I would like to invite you to a group that we do meet called Interfaith Maine. And I said, okay, I will like to attend. I went to their first potluck, and there's nobody that is around my age. That's like 15 years ago, so I was quite younger. I don't have no gray hair. And I said, Abe, how come there are no young people here? And he said, well, maybe you are going to help us find some young people and bring them here. Well, I didn't find young people to bring them there. I created an interfaith organization called Maine Interfaith Youth Alliance. It was for high school students, where I work with high school students who are Muslims, Jews, and Christians. And to some extent, because we are Maine, we allow young people who don't assign or who are not connected to any faith. They say that we don't believe in anything, but we still allow them. And when we come together, we don't talk about our faiths. We learn about each other, and we do public services. We will go to the soup kitchen every weekend to help. There is a retirement homes on Manjoy Hill. We will go there once a month and just have conversation with the people who live there. And through that organization, I got connected to a lot of people in Portland. Then I got invited to a national interfaith conference in Chicago. And I was in a breakout session when a young woman who is currently the co-director of Seeds of Peace walked up to me. After one of the sessions, she heard me spoke, and she said, did you say you are from Portland, Maine? I said, yes. And she said, do you know Tim Wilson? I said, the kids have mentioned his name. And then she asked me, do you know Sarah Rubin? And I said, no to both. She said, do you know Will Smith? And I said, no. She took out her phone and called Tim Wilson. And Tim do not necessarily answer his calls all the time. So she called him and left a message and said, I met this guy here. I want him to be connected to you. It took me about 2 years to meet Tim. When I came back home, I continued working with people, with young people around the interfaith youth organizing. And I also have my own daytime job, which is working with running an after-school program in Portland's housing. I met a young man whose father was also directly connected to Seeds of Peace. And he went and mentioned me to his father. And one day the father reached out to me, his name is Stephen Schuit, and said, Pious, my son will not stop talking about you. Can we have coffee? And then we met. And that was my connection to Seeds of Peace. Stephen Schuit said to me that I've heard so much about the work that you are doing in the community. There is an organization called Seeds of Peace. I wonder if you've heard about them before. I said, yes, a lot of it from the young people that I work with. But the first time I heard about them, I saw them on TV. I got to go to Seeds of Peace as a facilitator for the adult program. I did that for 2 years, and then I had a privilege of working with young people from across Maine. I became the facilitator and also the organizer for the what we call the Maine Seeds. When the kids come to camp, after the camp, someone have to work with them. And Tim, who have been around from the beginning, I think he's 78 or 79 years old now, and he was 50-something when Seeds of Peace was created, and he was part of the individuals. Prior to that, I think Tim have worked with, it is Maine Jewish Boys Camp. So he had experience working with diverse group of young people. I met Tim at the camp, and since then he's become like a fatherly figure or a mentor to me. I made a lot of friendship, but I also learned something that I would not have otherwise learned. I learned about the issues that is going on not just in Israel and Palestine, but also in Pakistan, also in Afghanistan, and many other places because of my involvement with Seeds of Peace. I learned how to open your heart and your mind to engage in people that don't look like you, to engage in people who you may not agree with, based on many, whether it is faith, whether it is race, whether it is economic class, and that shaped what my politics was. My conversation with young people, both here in Maine and from all the countries that Seeds of Peace get people to engage and participate with, got me to understand and learn more on what I, an immigrant, a black Muslim from Ghana, can do in a community that I have called my home for the past 22 years. And I have had the privilege of doing the work that I love to do, which is bringing people together, getting people to talk and learn about each other, both here in Maine and across the country. And through that work, I also got connected to the Holocaust and Human Rights Center, where I currently serve on the board. I also serve on the board of Seeds of Peace. Having said all of this did help me to get into politics. As you said, I founded an organization, which is my current job, in 2011 called Portland Empowered. I have had the privilege of coming from Ghana, which is an English-speaking country, so I don't have to learn how to read or speak in English, even though I have to learn how to read and speak in American English, which is a little bit different from what I know from back home. I started working with Portland Empowered to get parents and students in Portland who are immigrants, who are coming from non-English speaking countries, for them to understand the way education works. And then through that job, I also started learning some of the challenges that is in our country's education system. So I decided to run for school board and see how I can bridge the not understanding of the new arrivals who are coming from not just Africa, where I am from, but from South America, from Middle East, and other parts of the world, who have found Portland and Maine an appealing place for them to move to. I have run that organization until now. I am still running it. What I have learned is not just Portland, but across the state of Maine, even though Maine have the history of welcoming people who are from everywhere, Maine also have a history of not knowing how to engage those people. So Sarah used to invite me to, it doesn't matter which school she is at, she will always invite me to come and talk to kids, because I got to know Maine by traveling to different schools to talk to people about difference, about how to connect with each other, about who I am as a Muslim, and share my journey with them like I am sharing right now. Men have given me what I would not otherwise have if I was back in Ghana, or if I have lived in New York, or for that matter, anywhere in this world. So thank you for having me. And I have a firm belief that I want to share with all of you, which is that we all live in this world together. And it doesn't matter how we look like, it doesn't matter how we worship, it doesn't matter which language we speak, it doesn't matter what kind of food we eat, and who we chose to live with. We have to work with each other and create a place or a world where each of us will feel safe and live next to each other. Thank you very much. I will take questions. Correct, David?
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Whoops. Testing, testing.
Is this? Okay. Recording. Okay, hi, my name is Emily, and I'm actually an educator here in Biddeford, which has a really diverse population with a lot of new Mainers. I work with middle school students. So I'm curious, from a young, as you work with young people's perspective, what are some of the things that it helps people, young kids, to connect with each other? What do you think sort of works in a social setting or in a school setting?
Thank you very much. My experience working with young people is it is easy for them to connect with each other than we adults think or believe. Anything between, whether it is sports, theater, getting them to do projects together. I once visited a friend of mine in Portland, who I also met through Seeds of Peace. And then he said to me that my son have a friend whose parents are from Angola. The kid doesn't speak any English now. He's learning. But he said that anytime they are hanging out, they're having a conversation and they're laughing. I don't know how they understand each other. And I said, well, maybe they have some kids' sign language that we don't know. So kids tend to learn from each other, to be able to engage each other if the adults around them create a welcoming environment that they can copy from, and then they can easily connect. As I said, projects, maybe art, theater, and sports are all things that bring young people together and get them to talk to each other. At Seeds of Peace, we have a program called Color Games. The last week of the camp, where we mix up all the kids, it doesn't matter where you are coming from, and they are each put in a group. It is either green or blue. And you will be surprised that these kids who were in dialogue and they were defending where they are coming from vigorously, whether they are from northern Maine or southern Maine. We also have our challenges here, or they are coming from Chicago or New York, or any of the other places that we bring together. Once you put them together as a team, and then you mix each of the groups together, they tend to compete as a team, and they create relationship. And when they are leaving the camp, they are crying. And these are kids who came ready to defend who they are and what their countries are, or their communities, if they are here from northern or southern Maine. But they leave having been transformed and becoming good friends. And I have seen that when I was working at Riverton Park, which is one of the jobs that I've had earlier on, where you have mainstream kids, immigrant kids, and kids who are coming from economically disadvantaged background. We do art with them. We get them to work together on projects, not under a lot of restrictions. You let them be kids, because that is who they are, and they will find a way to connect and become friends. Thank you.
Other questions?
And also, don't feel free to ask me any question. I will answer, if I have the answer.
Hi, my name is Joyce. You mentioned sports and projects. I'm curious whether you've used music from the different cultures, songs or anything of that sort, to engage those kids or bring them together.
Yes. They don't do music from different cultures. What I have seen kids done, so I was at the camp, part of what we call the color games include a day where each of the kids that are coming together will display their culture. In my work in Portland, what we have done is there's something about America, which is that a lot of young people love hip hop. I have done projects where the kids have created their own beat rhythms using I didn't even know how to use MacBook at that time. Those kids are good at it. They went on it and they created song and they did performance. I have seen that happen. And they are not kids coming from the same background. They are kids coming from different backgrounds. There were white kids. There were kids who are immigrants from Africa, from Middle East, and from South America. What they have in common is they all live in the same neighborhood in Portland Housing Authority at Riverton Park. But they created not just music, they also did, how do we call it, short movies, and created a newsletter where each week one of them will, they were good at all of that, and they use that as a tool to connect with each other. And they also hold each other accountable through that project. So I have seen that happen.
Hold each other accountable, is what you said?
Yes, please.
In what way?
Well, if you are supposed to take pictures of something in the neighborhood and you are supposed to bring it to do your report and you don't do it, they will all tell you that, man, we are all a team, we're supposed to be doing this work and you're not doing it. So that type of accountable on the projects that they work on. Yeah.
Other questions?
I was wondering if there are, well, you mentioned a couple different interfaith groups in the Portland area, and I was wondering if you could repeat those names. Interested in how our congregation can be more involved in those groups and spaces generally as a community.
Yep. So I used to, when I talk like this, I used to joke that 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I know every immigrant. I have their addresses, their phone numbers, and their social security numbers. All I need to do is a photo, and then I can tell you, oh, this is so and so, this is where they live. Now, I can hardly, if you put me in a room with 10 immigrants, I can hardly know more than 5, because that so many people have arrived. And along with them, there are a lot of innovations. A lot of people have come up with, because those of us that have been doing this work would not be able to serve all of them. So there's a lot of organizations. We were just having a conversation about an organization called MANA, Maine Association of New Americans. There is an organization that I founded called Portland Empowered. There is all the different communities have their own community organizations. There are organizations for Latinos. There are organizations for Congolese. There are organizations for Somalis. There's Gateway Community Services. And all of this is doing what is outside what the government can do. The government can do this, but the community organizations, some of them serve just Portland, some of them serve Greater Portland, and some of them actually have programs here in Portland and then in Lewiston and elsewhere. And there's the Maine Immigrant Rights Coalition, which is an umbrella organization with about 60 to 65 immigrants serving and immigrant leading organization. I think if you want to support or you want to do something, that would be one, because they turn around and help all the other organizations.
I just want to follow up on that question. I was looking to communicate with the Muslim community in your county. So I was looking to see if there was a mosque. And I was saying, is even a mosque the central point of community for the immigrants in your county, or is there another organization facility? If we were going to work with them on projects, say, do you know?
In your county, I don't know of any mosque. However, I know that here in Biddeford, there's a young woman. As part of what I do at Portland Empowered, I also have a leadership program called Civic and Community Engagement Fellowship. And there's a young woman from here. I think her partner is on the city council, Liam. Her name is Isha. Isha does a lot of amazing work here in Biddeford. I have had the privilege of attending 2 of her Eid celebration where she invites people. I can ask her to see if she knows the community. She knows the community way more than I do, like your county. She may have that. However, in Portland, we have the mosque that I go to. I try to go to each of the mosques when I can, but there's one that is very close to where I live. I think it's called the Maine Muslim Community Center. That is there. The imam there have a connection with Muslims from across the state. But for here in Biddeford, in York County, I think Isha will be a good person to, and I will connect you with her, because I've come to her Eid celebration twice, and I have met other Muslims that I don't even know live in Biddeford, but she have a way of connecting with them.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
Thank you very much for speaking with us. And I'm just kind of curious, Pious, what is your plan for the near future? Do you have any political aspirations, or are you going to continue to do just what you're doing now?
That's a very interesting question. I joke sometimes that I'm a recovering mayoral candidate. I did run for mayor last year, and I didn't got elected. Maybe it is what is supposed to happen, because if I had, I'm going to be so busy that I may not be standing here, right? So I'm glad that I didn't, because I get to do a lot of things this year. Do I have other political aspirations? Absolutely. I see politics as a leadership, and I think my type of leadership, where I try to bring people together, I try to look at things through a lens of what our country stands for, to some extent, which is that we're a country of many people from different backgrounds. I think my type of politics will be needed. And I'm open for whatever opportunity will come my way. It could be the city council, it could be the state legislature or county commissioner or whatever that will come my way. It could be some of what I'm doing, which is I'm working with young people between the age of 20 and 30 to get them to share some of what I learned, and also invite other people. And some of them have shared interest in politics. And I have sent them to national organizations where they can be trained on how to get involved in politics. So it could be, there's a lot of many different directions that I can go with my life. Yeah.
I'll ask you another question. Pius.
Yes, please.
Some people have a misunderstanding about the Holocaust Human Rights Center or the Holocaust group in D.C. that they just work with Jewish people.
Can you repeat that, please?
So the Holocaust Human Rights Center,
Right.
some people understanding that they work with Jewish people specifically. Could you explain to us how they interact with the Muslim community and help the Muslim community?
Yeah. Thank you very much. I think if you look at our name, it is Holocaust and Human Rights Center. So we cover everything from educating people from Maine and people who live here about the Holocaust. We have an educational program that goes to different parts of the state to talk to people about that. I think in the future, we plan to also talk to decision makers, law enforcement, and many other people. And on the human rights side, we talk to historically in groups that have been marginalized, African Americans, indigenous Americans here in Maine, and also LGBTQ community. We bring all the groups that have fallen up, that have been systematically marginalized. And we also engage the Muslim community through having lectures, inviting people from the Muslim community during our annual meeting like this, or when we have sessions in the pandemic. We had a lot of programs online where we bring individuals from different backgrounds at any of our convening online to speak and answer questions like I am doing right now. And I'm a Muslim. I think Tim Wilson, who's like a mentor to me, is on the board. There's someone from the indigenous communities. And then our executive director is Asian. So the leadership of the Holocaust and Human Rights Center, there are a lot of Jewish members of the state on the board, but it is very diverse. And that diversity reflects on some of the work that we do broadly across the state of Maine.
Pius, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
So,
Thank you.